Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to start doing a series of comparison videos, and the reason for that is I've always told people don't pay attention to the name of the color of the paint. And the reason for that is most companies don't use the same pigment, or even if they did use the same pigments for certain colors, you'd be surprised at how different they can look. So I thought I would start going through some of my favorite colors first, by color name, and comparing across brands, but also pigments. So I'll pick out certain pigments that are, used a lot amongst multiple brands and compare those. So the one I wanted to start with today is one of my favorites, and that is Sap Green. And we have quite a few to choose from. Now, I do have a set of Dollar Brownie paints, but I cannot find my original swatch card to it. So I'm not sure if I have a sap green in there or not. They have a sap green. So today we are going to be comparing Holbein's sap green, My Mary Blue, Daniel Smith, Winsor & Newton Professional, Schmincke, Van Gogh, and then Roman Schmal. So I'll be doing the mass tone and then getting it mixed with some water and dragging it down for you guys, just so you can see, and then we'll dry them up and then kind of talk about each one. So let's get started. Okay, the first one we're going to start with is Holbein Sap Green. Now this is PY 150, PG7, and PR 22. Some of these I am doing off of dot cards. Some of these I am doing from tubes or pans that I have for that color. It honestly just depends. Okay. Next is My Mary Blue Sap Green. This is the only single pigment color that you'll see, and that's PG17. I did just order dot cards for this one. That is quite the difference, but as you can see, totally different pigments. Okay, next up is the Daniel Smith Sap Green, which is PO48, PY150, and PG7. Such a beautiful sap green. One of my favorites, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, next we have the Winsor & Newton Professional, and this is called Permanent Sap Green. And it is PG36 and PY110. I don't know if that one's going to give me enough pigment there. It's actually a pretty light sap green. Oh. Might not have a ton left on my dot card for that one. Okay, next is the Schmincke Sap Green, which is PY 153 and PG7. Very bright. Okay, off to the next. Okay, next is the Van Gogh Sap Green, which is PY 129 and PG7. I have to say Van Gogh and Daniel Smith give you a lot of paint in their dot cards, whereas it kind of feels like Schmincke and a few others are lacking. Okay, now we are on to Roman Schmal Sap Green, which is PY 150 and PG7. And it is a very dark one. This is actually in my Roman Schmal palette. Okay, let's have those dry up and then we'll come back. Okay, so this is exactly why I always say don't pay attention to the color name specifically and really get to know your pigments. Sap green is one of my favorite examples, and as you can see why. So first of all, you can see that most of these have a different range. Quite a few do use PG7, but PG17, only My Mary Blue is the only one that has that pigment. I believe the same goes for the PY129. You know, everyone makes their own mixes and their own idea of what a sap green is, but also look at the range in terms of darkness and lightness and even earthiness, to be quite honest. The Daniel Smith one has a little bit more of that olivey color to it. The Roman Schmal is dark when you do it mass tone or wet on dry, which is typically how I paint. So that's the color I'm going to get unless I water it down on my palette. But see how dark that one is? Look how dark the My Mary Blue is as well. Holbein Sap Green is actually quite pretty, prettier than I remember it. The Winsor & Newton Sap Green, I'm not a big fan of. I'm not going to lie to you. And same with the schmincke. It's just so bright. And then the Van Gogh Sap Green is actually not too bad. But if I had to pick favorites, obviously I enjoy the Roman Schmal Sap Green. It is in my Roman Schmal palette. So that said, I honestly think my favorite sap green might even be the Holbein. I love the color. It's bright because this one, the Daniel Smith one, does have that kind of olivey undertone. And I just don't picture that with the sap green. So this one's bright, but it's not super bright like the schmincke. That said, the My Mary Blue one is quite pretty as well. So I ended up actually buying a tube of that one, by the way. And it does kind of remind me of a Terra Verde color, but it says sap green on it. But again, that's why I don't pay attention too much to names. And in particular, I look at the pigments. PG7, like I said, normally when I see that, I'm not surprised. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to say I'm really liking the Holbein. Of course, I do like the Roman Schmal. Daniel Smith is in there just because it's earthy. However, I wouldn't really use it in my palette as one of my brighter greens. And the My Mary Blue is actually very impressive. You know, single pigment. It's the only single pigment one here. I'd love to know what your favorite sap green color is, from what brand, because they're all sap green color. So what brand is your favorite? Which one do you like here? And yeah, do you plan to try on any new sap greens, or do you want to make your own? That's a great thing about sap green, other than My Mary Blue, who has a single pigment one named that. All of these are mixes. You can make your own green. Sap green is definitely a convenience color. It's a convenience color. It's not usually found as a single pigment color, so you'll always have mixes of some sort. And most commonly PY150, PG7, and then everyone adds their own mixes. I mean, Winsor & Newton didn't use any of those, so keep that in mind. But again, theirs just doesn't impress me very much. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, you know, which one you use the most. If you have one, if you have all of them, what's your favorite? What's your favorite out of this swatching? And until next time, everyone, take care. Bye now.